So today we're going to look at Luke chapter 16, verses 1 through 9. And we're actually looking at this parable here that Jesus tells. It's called the parable of the shrewd manager. Now, perhaps if you've taken a look at that already and you've read this story, it's a bit of a difficult one to understand because it appears that Jesus is commending someone who's dishonest and deceitful and saying, oh yeah, this guy is the one that we should look up to. But if we unpack this, what I want to do is sort of take a look at the story and see if we can understand what it is that Jesus is trying to say to us. Because essentially, the story that Jesus tells is of a manager who seems to be deceitful in some way. He must be stealing from the landowner, the master of the estate. And so he loses his job. The master says, look, you can't work for me anymore, so you need to tidy up the accounts and go. Now, legally, he probably could have been put into jail. So the manager knows that though his master is fair, he's not going to let him keep his job because he's been stealing from him. But he's not harsh, he's not cruel, he's rather merciful because he doesn't send him to jail. So because of this, I guess he feels a bit emboldened. And so we're told, Jesus says, that this manager decides to make some deals. So he calls in the debtors that owe money, grain and oil to the master. And just before he leaves, he decides, I'm going to cut the debt that they owe to my master, and it's going to make things better for me. Because essentially what he says is, look, I'm not cut out for manual labor and I'm not going to beg in the streets. So I've got to do something to cushion my fall. I'm losing my job. I need to have a way to survive after this. So at his master's expense, he makes these deals with the wiping out some of their debt so that it makes it better, so that he can secure his own future. And what we see is that Jesus commends this manager, and what he says is that he commends him for his shrewdness. Now, what's key about this is Jesus, in chapter 16, verses 8 and 9, Jesus says, the master commended the dishonest manager because he had acted shrewdly. For the people of this world are more shrewd in dealing with their own kind than are the people of the world. I tell you, use worldly wealth to gain friends for yourselves, so that when it is gone, you will be welcomed into eternal dwellings. And Jesus commends this shrewd business manager, and here's why. Because what Jesus is saying is that when we look at this story of the shrewd manager, what he's saying is, we are that manager. We're the dishonest ones. We're the ones who are sinful. We're the ones who are deserving of a great penalty. And ultimately, at some point, just like the manager lost his position, we're going to lose our position on earth. We're not going to live forever. So we've got to prepare for the future. And what Jesus says is, this business manager looked to the future and said, look, I'm not going to have this job forever. I'm in trouble now. And so I'm going to be as clever as I can to do whatever I need to do to make sure that I can be prepared for the future ahead of me. And he says, I know that my the master is merciful, and I know that I can secure my future at my master's expense. Perhaps you're picking up that there's a picture of the cross here. There's a picture of salvation, that what Jesus is saying is that we are the dishonest managers. We're the ones who are not deserving of grace. And yet God is our master and he's merciful. And when he sent Jesus to die on the cross for us, he literally offered a way for us to be rescued, a way for us to secure our future at Jesus' expense. It's at the master's expense. I don't deserve it. I've done wrong. The future for me is not certain. And so the only way to secure my future then is to take a hold of the rescue that Jesus offers at God's expense. And so Jesus is teaching then to us in this parable is that essentially we shouldn't be more shrewd, we shouldn't be more clever or intelligent with our money than we are with our own lives. That we shouldn't put more effort into preparing our financial future than we do in preparing our physical and spiritual future. Jesus says, consider what the future holds. Be prepared. Recognize the value and the worth of the gospel, the value and the worth of the kingdom of God, and grab a hold of it while you still can.